I said, there's a coating on all of it. You're going to get it on you eventually, but you might as well get rid of at least 90% of it. Just got a degreaser. I'm going to spray it down, wipe it off, just once. And then I'm going to weigh it to show you the difference between, we don't have any chromoly here, but we'll show you how negligible it is when you're going cost versus the weight you're actually saving. So it's nothing fancy, it's just a bathroom scale, but just trigger it off like that, zero out, and so 11.8 pounds, roughly 5 kilograms for an 8.5 foot tube. Now, you're going to say, why do you have an 8.5 foot tube when you just said 9 foot tube? Having experience doing this, I know that following the metal line of the vehicle, you're overshooting it. Plus, we're putting this on boxes that actually lift it up because we really want to strengthen it. We don't want to use too much of the CRX's sheet metal because a lot of it, the integrity isn't there. So we're going to build a heavy box. This is 7 inches under what we quoted you, but I guarantee you it's going to work. Well, who knows? I might screw it up. You know what? Comment below if you think this is going to work. I like that. I love the challenge. I actually told cameraman Mac when we were doing this, because they come in 20-foot lengths. We measured up the Bentley, and it was just shy of 12 feet. This was just shy of 9, and I said, you know what? I don't want to order 2 different pipes just for the demo videos here. We've got a bunch more pipe coming that we ordered bulk. I'm so confident I can do this. I want you to cut an 8.5, leaving an 11.5 out of that 20-foot length. Let's see if I messed up. So I guarantee I'm going to screw this up now just because I ran my mouth. The way that we were showing you over there at the car, we're doing the same fundamentals exist, but we're actually going to start from the top and work our way out just because we pre-cut this when we got it from the metal supplier, and we wanted to get as accurate as possible. I have no doubt that we'll still get close as long as we make our bends where they're supposed to be. So what we did, measured the tube. It's exactly 8'6", perfect. We found the center point on the roof, worked away from there, used our pre-bent 90 to figure out where the bend needs to start, and we did that from center. So this way was 17 inches, this way was 17 inches, and I'm going to guess and put 80-degree bends on those. Now I think I've loaded it into here properly, and when I say properly, it's because your bend takes up some of the metal. Remember we were saying before is how you don't want to either bend too far into one side of the line or too far on the other side. The way we measured it is 17 from the roof center is where we want that bend to start for what I'm guessing is 80 degrees. I'm just being cocky here, like I said. Worst case, we're going to have to cut this up and just use the straight lengths for braces later on. I just want to see if I can back up my mouth. So without further ado, this is how we're going to get this started. Always zero your machine. We've anchored it like we always have, so that should be okay. But you know what? If there happen to be a little bit of dust, sand, whatever, that may be throwing it off by 1/10 of a degree, whatever. So now that we've got it anchored, nothing's moving, we've put our angle finder on the main body of it that's bolted to this. Not this, because that actually has the ability to fluctuate just because there's a little bit of give with all the pivot points. Now, the way to keep this on a plane, because you don't want to put your first bend in, because that's always going to be on a single plane. The problem is when you then put the second bend in, if you're off by a couple degrees, what happens is you got one leg going this way, one going this way, and there's no way it's going to line up. So how do you get around that? We know this is 0. We should have, the proper way to do this is with vice grips and a flat piece of metal. I usually like something that's at least 3 to 4 inches wide, but we'll show you what we do. Cameraman Matt came to the rescue, and he had one of those paper pinchy clippy things. So that's actually holding this quite well. And as you can see now, what we're going to do is we zeroed this to the machine. Now we're going to we're at 0.2 of a degree, 0.3. We'll just make sure it reads that again. So what this is that's a magnet. It's holding there. it's not going to move. What that does is it says the next time we bend, it also has to be at 0.3. Because even if it doesn't say 0, as long as that end stays the same, and we know that that end is bolted in, that may be the absolute 0, but as long as this doesn't move again, it's okay, because as long as we match it, we're done. Let's get to bending some tube and this stupid paper clip. What I did is I marked it. What you should have is a chalk marker kind of thing, because sometimes it's hard to see like a Sharpie. So what we did is we didn't have a chalk line thingy piece. So what we did is we did use a Sharpie, but then what we did, you can't really see it's because it's our, oh yeah, I guess you can. Cameraman Mac, if you want to go all the way in here. We then lined up the Sharpie with a piece of tape just so we could see the visual. We set the preload so there's tension on it, and we zeroed that baby out, because there's no point of having a degree wheel if you're not starting at 0. Let's bend some tube, and like I said, I'm guessing it's 80 degrees. Let's find out if I'm buying another tube or Cameraman Mac's buying me dinner. All right, let's do this.
Is that how it's going to go?
Apparently. It was funny because we actually picked up a length of tube. We weren't paying attention. We just knew it was 1.5 inches. It was like 0.65 wall. And we got it here to do a demonstration as just how to bend tube. And we're just like, man, this is easy. But that's actually what we were using to hold up the hatch, is that piece. And what had happened is it just kinked twice on like a 60 or 70 degree bend. We're like, what are we doing wrong? Did we set the machine up wrong? You know, our dumb asses didn't even bother to check to make sure it was actually spec tube. And sure enough, it kinked, and we thought, man, our machine's wrong because it was brand new. We set it up wrong. But to be honest, it was barely thicker than conduit. So once we did a test run with some 1.5 inch 120 wall, what's supposed to be in here, that's what I made that test bend cheater bar out of. And I'm gonna laugh at this. Normally people would not show you their mistake. I'm gonna show you mine. I didn't put a set pin in to set the die. So it's been actually sitting against this. This is what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to sit in these, because then what you do when you run out of ratchet is you set it again and do that. Hey, we messed up, but you know what? I'm only superhuman to people that don't know I make a lot of mistakes. Either way, so then you continue on your merry little way. I told you, we're gonna have fun on this channel. You may not learn something, but we're gonna have fun. Oh, we're getting close, so always remember deflection. We're aiming for 80. Like if you go under full tension, that's at 68, but see how you always lose 2 or 3 in deflection. It comes back. Just keep that in mind, because that's how much you have to overbend it to get the number that you want. But we're getting close. So Cameraman Mac, make sure I don't go too far while I'm talking and wasting everybody's time. We're getting so close.
75, deflect back to 72. 80, 81, deflect back to, looks like 78.
This won't be a full ratchet pull.
81, 82.
82, let's go to 83.
83, okay.
Okay, and where are we sitting?
It's like 80.5 or 81.
All right, well, I can't tell. So now check out the end of the tube. See, we still got that 0.2, 0.3-ish. Now we're talking 1/10 of a degree. That is pretty impressive considering we just did this whole 80 degree radius. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna try and make for damn sure that does not get bumped. What we need now is to get, this actually has to turn around because this is where we're starting the bend. So we need the short end over there, but we're gonna figure out how to make this happen so I don't make a mistake on camera. I don't know if we're gonna cut here, and I'll get back to you when we reload it. Maybe we'll do that because I'm gonna fidget around for a bit. We're gonna make sure we anchor that properly. We'll come back when it's reloaded and I'll explain to you how we did it instead of wasting all this time. We cheated. The way we had it set up, in theory works, but because we were working off the center and we had to feed this back through, we couldn't leave the angle finder on that end. I mean, we could have fed everything back through that way, but the tape wasn't on the others, because you have to turn it upside down, which would have messed with things. Trust me, that way still works if you were doing it properly and you weren't using tape and you had actually marked all the way around. So here's what we did. We put it back in. Weird, that used to say 0, but whatever. Let's take that, 0.2. That's just a reference point. We put it on this was, yeah, so there you go. So we're within a tenth, probably within 55 because that's just sitting there. Just trust me, this is gonna work. It's gonna work. I'm not buying dinner. We'll leave it there, what does it matter? So, tension. Zero. Bendy, bendy, bendy. All right, so I like to do a little pre-test fit. Obviously it's not going to fit with the angle of the bottom. What I like to do is get it in there and just put it up towards the roof and see how close we got. So let's see. So as you can see, it looks like we're actually on exactly the plane we wanted to be. When you don't take those measurements and double check, I mean, the ground's not flat, but you'd have one side way up in the air and the other side down, which when you put in the vehicle isn't lining up at the same points in the car. So let's go see how this goes in the car. It almost looks like I made a mistake. Let's find out. That does look like the bend started a little late. Who's buying dinner? Who's buying dinner? Like I said, you won't get the bottom to fit because those bends aren't there, but what you can do is angle it to find out if you can snugly put it up against the roof. And that's not so bad, eh? Look at that. To be honest, I haven't bent a roll cage in like 12? Yeah, 11 or 12 years. Cameraman Max laughing, he's agreeing. Yeah, so basically you can even eyeball these ones to find out where you want your next bend. But if you look at, like, those top corners don't need to be gusseted. I can weld this right to the top corners of the car. Keep in mind we're hitting headliner. And if you look, once those bottoms bend in, I don't know if cameraman Matt can get down there, but once we run a plate across here to box them in, it's looking pretty damn good, eh? Originally when we were going to bend, I wanted to start here. That's how, you know how we set the angle finder at the end? That's so you can just keep feeding each, like, more tube through and put the next bend in. Like the way we had originally measured it up, we'd start bending here, get that to the angle we thought we wanted, then we'd move up to here, get it, and keep moving across. That's why we took those measurements. We decided to go the other way because we wanted to maximize what was left in the tube. So we started dead center and did equidistant bends off the center of the pipe based off the center of the car. What we're going to do now is we're just going to eyeball and pick where we want the next one to be, because as you can see, like I said, we got right up there. We can weld that right to the car. We don't need a gusset there. We're trying to decide where we want to put the next one. If this had just dropped straight down, I'd probably put the bend right about there and drop it at the same angle as that. That way I could weld it all the way down gussetless. But because it tapers back in, I think I'm actually just going to come up a bit higher and drop it straight down. So it'll be closer down there than it is up here, but that's okay. Because like I said, we'll weld up there, we'll put a little bit of gusseting in here, and then down there where it meets the plate and the box that we're going to build should look good. So I'm going to eyeball this, factor in that, there still needs to be some bend. And I'm acting cocky because I got it super close on the first try. But the reality is that's what that cheater bar does. It takes all the guesswork out. I remember when I was younger, I would just say, oh, you know, it's that distance. I think we're going to lose, you know, roughly 3 inches to the center of the bend, and we'd do that. And I'll be completely honest, more times than I want to admit, we ended up having to cut where the bend was and just use that as a straight piece of tube as a door bar or something, because my ego and rushing messed things up. So this is a bit of experience mixed with having that cheater bar. Anyway, so back to it. I think we're going to put the bend right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure that, mark it on the other side, and we're going to make these bends happen. Okay, so we're marking this at 13 3/8. A lot of people are probably going to say, well, how can you be so far off? The other one said, you measured it out at 19. Yes, I realize that. But what you also have to understand is that you're bending it in a different direction. You're taking up pipe length in the die. One of them was going to come to this side of 19. This is going the other way, if that makes sense. As you'll see when we're done, we should have a pretty good fit. There will be a little more gap than I want, because originally we were going to follow the contours, but after we looked at it, like I said, it tapers too far back in, and I don't want like an octagon shape. We're really close to the roof. Really good angle coming down. We could have actually taken less out of it. Instead of putting 80 in it, it looks like we could have done about 76, 74. Okay, now that we've pulled the tube out and it's been reinserted,
We are children.
well, bleep that out. It takes 30 seconds. Zero your stuff out again. All right, so we haven't adjusted that yet. We've just tightened it enough so it holds plane. Let's go over there and find out if this is actually where it is or where. Okay, so we need to take a degree out of it. So loosen it slightly here.
It's worth noting as well that the client angle finder will actually tell you what direction you need to go in.
Okay, so preloads on it. We're getting pretty close to zero just like that.
Just needs to come up a tiny bit.
So I'll let cameraman Mac do that way I can tighten it over here. We're going to call that a win.
Bam.
So I'm going to crank her down really hard. Okay.
We are at basically 0.1 of a degree.
And we're zeroed back here. We're going to guess on this one. I'm going to bring her back in the 10 degrees now to basically equal 90. We'll see how it goes. I may have to put it back in to add 2 or 3 more degrees, but we were really only the thickness of the tube off. So you know what? I'm going to take it to 12. Give myself more opportunities to mess up so someone can say that I did something wrong, because my ego needs a hit. It's the same thing. We're going to reload the pipe. We marked that side ahead of time. So we're just going to flip this around and get her going. We need to go. You want us to go up slightly. Okay, so we need to do. Mac enjoys me when I talk slowly and work the pipe really gently. I moved too much, I think. Or we're perfect. I have no idea why we're whispering, but it worked. You just gotta talk nicely to it. Alright, let's bend the shit.
Ten. 15. Back to 13.
13-ish? Okay. All right. So worst case, we came back in like bent it back in a degree too far compared to that one. Who knows, we might be way off. Let's find out. So the goal here is to try and have, or at least this is what I like to put it, I like to be about an inch away from the B pillar. That way you can center it over the plate that you're going to put under it as good as possible. I don't remember what the spec is. I need to read my rule books again. I think you need a 3x3 plate. So the closer you get to like 1.5 inches right on the center, then you got 3/4 of an inch of pipe on either side of the center line, giving you a better look than putting it over to one side. Either way, less talking, a little more walking. Let's go. There you go. So we've got, I can't really see it with this there. We've got about, that's assuming we want to tuck it all the way up, which we do. So we got a thumb distance down there to build up our plate boxes. We've got nice contour there. Sorry, this is really sharp up here. So that's what it's going to look like. And I'm holding this crooked. All right. Let's do that. Then it looks prettier. There you go. We got the points where we like. We'll be able to weld it up into the top corners. As soon as we take this headliner out, it'll come up nice snug against them. And we'll build 2-inch boxes at the bottom. There you go. That's how you build a main hoop. I'm sure we made it take a lot longer than it should have, but she's pretty. Let's run with that.
So we've just hung it from the roof using some ratchet straps. So that way we can center it in the car without having to hold it.
This is where the boxes are going to be, and because we're going to put 4-inch plates down is what we're going to do, so it's overkill. The boxes we're going to build are 4 inches wide, which is what's going to put this tube right in the center of it. Really good even distribution, and we'll reinforce it in every direction. So bonus there. This turned out, if I made it absolutely perfect, like I said, instead of putting 80 up at the top corner, probably would have been better at 75, 76, and then we would have had a little more contact down here. We were really, really important up here because this is what's going to keep the diagonal so the roof doesn't shift as we cut floor out. This is exactly where we wanted this. So the only difference would have been we could have tucked this a little bit closer. It's a thumb width away. So it's all personal preference. So like I said, we could have taken 3-4 degrees out of this, did a 76, maybe even 77. It would have just brought this closer. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But this ended up exactly where we wanted it. So does that conclude our day, cameraman Mac? He's nodding. Doesn't even have enough energy to say yes. There you go. I'm Chris. That's cameraman Mac for Level 6 Fabrication Project CRX Build. We out.